views expressed are those of the guests and not necessarily those of the producer. Today's topic.
Part 2 of the Sikh issues in Passion for Truth.
Dr. Udaga Singh Bala, Professor Emeritus of the University of Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Dr. Bala has written a number of books on Sikh history and Sikh scriptures. Surekha Ved, journalist from New York, she has written several articles for the Washington Post and the Washington Times. Dr. Paramjit Singh Rawat, a proponent for the freedom fighting movements, currently president of Anti-Defamation League. And Sardar Ganga Singh Dhillon, a researcher and negotiator on critical issues affecting India and Pakistan. We also invited a representative from the Indian embassy, but didn't hear from them. You expect Sardar Anija to, the Indian Prime Minister, to right the wrongs committed 2 decades ago?
No.
What do you say?
Dr. Rawat have made a comment twice on an extremely important issue, the Sikh sovereignty. To the best of my knowledge and assessment, the reason what I'm going to say is I consider myself fully qualified because I have lived for the last 58 years, at least, when I first time went to jail for that slogan, and it's on record. My entry is banned into India because of that slogan. Sikh sovereignty is embedded in the soul of every Sikh. No doubt about it. But as I said earlier, the wise people and the wise groups and the wise communities and the wise countries sometimes have to make very, very tough, difficult decisions. For us to count on slogans these days is not going to solve our problem. We have to consider the time frame that we are going through at this time and not subject the Sikh community, which has suffered since 1984 so much that we feel the pain still today. And they are still orphans, still widows who are victims of the 1984 massacre there. And 1984, what happened in Amritsar. But we are sitting here. We are free. We must set our house in order first and stand on our sound feet so that we could do something positively for the community back home. But so long, the way we are approaching today, emotionalism is not the right approach to solve the Sikh problem.
Let me have Surekha here. Surekha, when Indian Prime Ministers visit U.S., and I'm not talking about this, the recent Prime Minister, but Nasima Roy and all those people who were worked by the Indian immigrants through large parties, and they do indeed have an agenda. They talk privately with Indian parties. But they never asked them anything that might negatively impact on India, or even when the issues are burning hot in the fire. Nor do they ever voice their expectations in private meetings, whatever. The forums consist of past accomplishments of the native country, perhaps 2 decades ago, unaware of how they, as Indian immigrants, could influence India in becoming a stronger democracy. Why is there not an appetite for truth?
You mean from the Prime Minister, from the community who's staying here in this country?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
First, I will answer the question you said, you asked in the beginning, is India a great democracy? I say it is a great democracy. I live in the United States now for the last 10 years. I don't think in America we are still ready over here to have a Jewish president or a black president or president from another community. But in India, at the moment, the Prime Minister is from the Sikh community, which is minority, and which is actually makes me feel proud of the country which I was born in. And the president of the country is Muslim, which is again a minority, and which actually makes the people think outside that this is a democracy. And also, you know, many times things have happened that people have thrown the leaders out of power. Mrs. Gandhi was thrown out of power in how the parties, the BJP wasn't delivering the goods, and then they brought back the Congress. And the Congress is not going to do it this time. If they do not punish the culprits for the 84, right after the Nanavati report has come out, they should not be given power again, that answers the question about the democracy. The second is that about the grievances. I think people, what happens is that people just get so excited. And we have a very small community here. We are not even 2 million Indians in this country, and forget about the Sikhs. I mean, they're a very small community. And if it, not even 2 million, I mean, if Spanish have a big say in this country, any of the Chinese have a big say in this country, and they have actually play a very strong role in the leadership in this country, even in the elections time. Right now we have a Bobby Jindal, one person who's from the Republican parties. But I think you're right. We should not have problems with each other. We should unite as a community. And then we can put our grievances. I mean, there are 200 groups, and 200 groups will go and have a power over that.
Dr. Jarvis, do you agree with that?
Quickly, democracy definition, I won't get into that because we know what the definition of democracy is. Manmohan Singh, he's Prime Minister by default. He's not an elected person, so we cannot compare India with the United States where a president is elected by the majority. Number two.
Didn't Bush was elected? Some people said that he saw the.
That is the matter of opinion, but the popular opinion has prevailed, so he was elected. Second thing is what we have to remember, that a democracy where people raise the slogans of peaceful, democratic and political way of a separate Sikh homeland, they are put behind the bars. A person like me, who is a pain specialist, who's a pioneer, who's well known and who takes care of Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians alike in a proper way and with compassion, has been labeled a terrorist by the Zee TV Inside Story on June 26th, where they illegally downloaded my pictures from my website khalistan.net and projected on the Inside Story, and all the people who are the producers are Hindus in Noida. The guy who's the commenter Anurag Tomar, they labeled me, my friend Dr. Gurmeet Singh, all a terrorist by implication. What kind of democracy is that, where you are not doing any violence, you are asking for your rights, and you're put behind the jail, or you're labeled as terrorist? What kind of democracy are we talking about?
Yes, sir.
I think what Dr. Rawat is referring is to the journalism. And journalism and democracy is the two different things. It doesn't mean that what our journalists say reflects the true image of our government.
That's the media, yeah.
And that's the media. We cannot, his point is very valid, but that's again, now if we are talking of true democracy, that is the sign of a true democracy, that yes, journalism can go either way, this way or that way, and there is not a strong man behind them, that why you do it, why you didn't do it. So I think there are two different aspects.
Let me ask you, how has the Indian democracy failed you? Has it failed you?
It was in a way. I mean, I will not say that yes, they are here where it needs to be, because there are hidden places behind in front of the faces what we see. Dr. Manmohan Singh was made a Prime Minister, Dr. Zakir Hussain was made a Prime Minister to give us a feeling that yes, it's a true democracy, where it is not. Because he may not be able to implicate what he thinks.
Implement
what he thinks.
I want to interject. When Advani or a Hindu leader talks Hindu Rashtra and Hindutva, they're not put behind the bars. When the Sikhs talk Khalistan and a separate Sikh state, they're labeled as terrorists and they're put. What kind of democracy we are talking about?
Okay, let me move on here, Dr. Bora. Even in the National Press building, and I personally have gone there several times, nobody asked the Indian ambassador any question that might impact negatively on India. How is it that nobody asked anything? The moderator carefully censors all the questions from the audience, from the veterans, and answers only on the successes of India. Surely India must have some failures.
Oh, there have been failures, in fact, right from the beginning. Let me go back to 1984. I think media we are talking about now, it is the first time in the Indian history that all media was completely banned to send any news or any reports outside Punjab at that time when the massacre was being held. I think that was not a good image of a democracy. Now, in terms of asking questions from, I think that most of such meetings like National Press and so on, they are really organized beforehand. They sift the questions and they make it absolutely easy for the speaker, particularly the ambassador, to answer only those questions that suit him. And I do not know, I was not there, but if there are any Sikhs there, they must have raised the question in 1984. You know, this is something very strange, that Jews and Germans had, the Germans had the massacre in Germany against Jews a long time ago. And we hear about that every year. But we don't raise the same question. Why can't we raise the same question again and again? It's only 20 some years ago. And time is going by, I was going to suggest that, I think Mr. Vengasan Dillo also mentioned this, that those orphans, those widows, they're completely disillusioned. They're disappointed. But when, in a democracy, a justice will come for them? When and how?
I think Dr. Baba has raised a very good point. And my friend Dan Burton says it is the squeaky wheel which gets the oil.
Oh, yeah.
You stop it and people will forget about it and it will happen again. Jews have not forgotten till this day. They didn't forget their first slogan, this year in New York, next year in Jerusalem, this year in Budapest, next year in Jerusalem. They finally got there because they were persistent. Sikhs will have to do the same thing, and we want, if Eichmann, Himmler, and all these Nazis who kill millions of Jews, if they can be punished, and the Nazi hunting can be going on till this day, what has gone wrong with the Sikhs? We have to bring all those guilty to justice. We have to punish them by establishing international tribunal, by legal means, not by illegal means. And when the Sikh state gets established, our hunting will start of those people. And they'll be brought to Punjab, Khalistan, and they'll be tried like it happens. And I want to tell the world and my friend Mr. Dillon here that when Soviet Union occupied the Baltic states, Lithuanian embassy was open in Washington for 2 years for business. Though they have totally occupied and oppressed and state terrorism and tyranny was on, but two guys, they held the Lithuanian embassy open in Washington, D.C., and in 1989, when Soviet Union broke and the Baltic states became free, Lithuania became a free country, but for those two people who sat through the hardest of times.
I want to add that because I think every terrorism has two sides. One side is a militancy, one side is a freedom fighter, it becomes terrorist. The other side, it's with the Palestinian, with Israel. But I also feel that, as a Sikh community, it does not give us the right to kill a plane which was in Canada, which was dropped and some Sikhs were involved in that. So we are spoiling our image by doing something that. If we want some kind of more sovereignty for the community, if we want to give a good image to the Sikhs, but people are listening to that. People are listening all over the world that the plane went down and the Sikhs were involved with it. So, how are you going to stop that?
Yeah,
so if that's not a terrorist, it's not
I want to tell you, just for your own good protection, that any time you say Sikh, you're liable to a lawsuit. I just want you to know. Sikhs are not involved, and two Sikhs who were exonerated, that proves that, and if you read the book Soft Target, there will be a class action lawsuit by the Sikhs against individuals who defame them and against the Indian government, and you can be liable.
You think you are against it?
No.
Whoever did that way?
Oh, absolutely. There's any kind of state terrorism or by terrorism. And if you read the book Soft Target by Brian McAndrew, he very clearly, and Suhail Kashmiri, they pointed the finger of the Indian consulate. And you know what? The sad part is the people who are actually involved, they are not Sikhs, they're Hindus, and they use Sikhs as a shield. And the exoneration of Raghuman Singh Malik and Bagdi has proven to the world that Sikhs was a soft target, trusting people who were made scapegoat. If ZTV can label a guy like myself, a pain specialist who is indifferent to any kind of violence, they can label any Sikh as a terrorist. So where does
I would like to add one thing that, if we forget 1984, I put more emphasis on Sikh leadership, who is trying to make us forget it, not the Indian government. This is our efforts to get the message to our next generation. This what happened to us. This what Jews did. This what Jew people did, that they did not forget those incidents. the same thing come back to us, to our leadership, that we should keep this thing going on to our next generation and should not blame to any leadership of the government.
Mr. Dartolo, why is it that they have been acquitted, these two guys who were implicated through the malicious propaganda, whoever was doing that propaganda? They have been acquitted, and the general public still seems to blame the Sikhs for in their involvement with the plane bombing of 1985.
Yes.
229 Hindus were killed.
There are no two opinions about it, that the minorities are suffering from one end of the country to the other end. Only 3-4 years ago, more than 50,000 Muslims were massacred in Gujarat, and nothing has been done about them, and people raising the voice. Now the Nanavati report has come. I would like to say that Dr. Manmohan Singh is not a flashy politician. He likes to do the things, not to brag about it. He likes to do the things in his own very manner which he has practiced and preserved the whole of his life. Now, so far the democracy is concerned, nobody ever would say that India is a full-fledged democracy, even today, when the president is a Muslim, prime minister is a Sikh, the leader of the party is a Christian, speaker is an ethnic, is a non-believer, and the deputy speaker is a Sikh. All those things, they are nothing, no doubt about it. But democracy does not get implanted in 50 years. It takes a longer time. But so far, Dr. Rawat is concerned, he said something very important about Lithuania. Two people openly abased. I said earlier, we Sikhs must set our own house in order. We united to ask the government of the United States that why we are not allowed to have the Kyrgyzstan embassy in this city.
You know, recently...
Hold on a second.
No, I was just... At your point, I'm adding it.
We are paying thousands of dollars to the lawmakers. And why don't we ask the lawmakers, Republican, Democrats, both, that they should approach the administration and ask them, we should be allowed to have, if Yasser Arafat, a known terrorist in the world, had his own seat in the United Nations and was as in the USA. Our problem is we are not united ourselves. We should come with one voice that this is what we want, and we should have a representative body and a representative embassy or any spokesperson in this country so that we don't have any grievance. My point is, we are not doing our job here. We want to solve the problems of Indian Sikhs, but we have not been able to solve our problems.
That's what I was going to add to it. When Jethrodar was visiting California, I happened to interview him, and he said the same thing. He said that first thing, there are fights in Gurdwaras. All the time, and every time they have to close down, they had to close down the Freeman Gurdwara because there was something happened. In New Jersey, this thing happened. And the people just picked up the Quran from in front of the Guru Granth Sahib and killed a man. Which is, what image are we going to give it to the world? I mean, even our religious centers, if people are going to use the weapons and kill each other, what image? And the second is that he said, every state I go to Canada, they said, he's the president of Pakistan, Pakistan. I go to Yuba City and he says, I am the president. So he says, every city I go, they come and tell me I am going to be the president, and then they start fighting with each other. So I think I agree with you. First of all the community has to unite together and do not fight at the religious places, which is giving a bad, then you cannot blame the media. Media is only going to pick up the thing which has happened at the Gurdwara.
Okay. I would quickly like to interject, if you please allow me. Living under the shadow of Indian government, Indian intelligence infiltrated in the Gurdwaras, undercover agents disguised as Sikhs controlling the Gurdwaras, and they are creating the havoc in every Gurdwara, and any time the movement comes together, those undercover agents of the Indian intelligence, they create all that ruckus there in the Gurdwara, provoke the fights. We have done one thing here in Washington, D.C. We have pulled some of the events out of the Gurdwaras for the time being. Of course, we go to the Gurdwaras where we call the shots, or the Sikh community call the shots, and the agents do not have a say in that, because for our well-being, we have to depend on people. We cannot work under that surveillance of the Indian embassy, who's hell-bent upon making the Sikhs look bad in any shape.
Even, Dr. Bawa, even if it is true that the infiltration is all over in Gurdwaras, they can't make you do it. They can't make you fight.
Absolutely. I agree.
You choose to fight based on the falsified information. But
Well,
take a determination.
I think Sikhs have to really be a little more introspective in terms of their own demand and in terms of their own problems. I agree with you that those infiltrators cannot force me. I can recall some years ago I was going to address a group of non-Sikhs, and some folks came to my house and they said, well, you should not go, they're not Sikhs. I said, what are you afraid of? I'm not. If I'm going to go and address those people, then I would change my opinion. I will still be a Sikh after I finish speaking before them. But somehow there is that kind of impression that if those people come in, and they must offer something to these people, some kind of candies or bonuses and so on, just to attract them or to lure them to create the problem that we have got. Almost in every Gurdwara in America and Canada, every Gurdwara. It cannot be all Sikhs. It has to be somebody else's hand there. Therefore, what we need to do is just look into ourselves and see who is at fault.
Dr. Ajrawat have tried to say something and repeat it again and again. I'm coming back to the same point. Until and unless we do not unite and do something positive in this country, we will not succeed. However, it's not a personal accomplishment, but I don't afraid to say so, which is a historical fact. Because I was tired of these fightings long time ago and left those things for many people to handle here and started a project which was a community project all over the world, 6 shrines in Pakistan. Single-handedly, I got an organization of the Sikhs established in an Islamic country in the world today that in spite of all the infiltration and opposition of the government of India and their agents here and their agents in Pakistan, it is known fact today that Pakistan Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee has been established. It is functioning. It's not wonderful yet, but it is a good beginning. And if we want to do something, I can sit with those people and share with them how I have accomplished it, how we can together accomplish whatever we think the complaints we have to accomplish in this country as well as in India. And final thing, Dr. Manmohan Singh is not a Prime Minister there because he's a Sikh, and I have still very full faith in his ability that in his own way he is taking care of the certain problems of the Sikhs which he does not claim that he is doing, but we will know and we will feel it, and that's a record.
And that's all the time we have. This is another edition of National Purpose next Saturday and Sunday. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all.
I have found my visit to your great country to be a highly rewarding experience. The giant statement we have issued today highlights some key priority areas for expanded cooperation in future. We look forward to working with you to realize our common aspirations in the months and years that lie ahead. Mr. President, India and the United States are great nations and great democracies. We have all grown up learning the story of the unfinished voyage of Christopher Columbus. Setting sails to reach India, he discovered America. I now invite the people of America to complete the voyage of that great explorer. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite you to join me in a toast to the health and happiness of President George Bush and the First Lady, Mrs. Laura Bush, the friendly people of the United States of America, and to the success of all that we are endeavoring to do through this visit to open a new chapter in our relationship. Thank you, listener.
Members of Congress, it is my privilege, and I deem it a high honor and personal pleasure to present to you His Excellency Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Vice President, distinguished members of the U.S. Congress, ladies and gentlemen, I deem it a great privilege to be invited to address this giant session of the U.S. Congress. I thank you from the core of my heart for this invitation. I bring you the greetings and good wishes of our Parliament members and indeed of the entire Indian people. Ladies and gentlemen, our commitment to democratic values and practices means that there are many concerns and perceptions that we share with the people of this great country. I am very happy to say that President Bush and I have decided to launch a second generation of India-US collaboration in the field of agriculture.
If you have any question, comment, or suggestion on this program, please send us an email at mschawla@hotmail.com. Please watch GTV programs every week at the same station and at the same time, and send your comments to mschawla@hotmail.com.